Welcome back to the Rami Lavi podcast. My name, again, Rami Lavi. 2 nights in a row. We're doing this nightly. I just got back from the Mets game, so that was fun. And we got a bunch of stuff going on, but we have to start. We'll talk about the Mets. We'll talk about the Rangers, obviously. Big night for both of those teams. But we have to start with the Yankees because not even the Yankees, but John Sterling. So John Sterling announced today his retirement, and I actually spoke to Emmanuel Pavari a little bit today, back and forth. He didn't tell me anything, so but I assume some news about that's going to be coming down the line. But John Sterling, for all of us, and if you grew up a Yankee fan, if you grew up listening to the Yankees on the radio, and then if you got to where I am, where working at WFAN, John Sterling is a legend to you. John Sterling is a hero to you. And John Sterling is the voice for the last 36 years, was the voice of the Yankees and the voice of the dynasty and the voice of Derek Jeter's career in its entirety and so many different things. And I remember back, and a lot of people talked about this, but I remember back the first time I heard John Sterling was in the car with my father. And he's like, you got to listen to this guy. When he does the calls, he has the special home run call for each guy. And, he has this big, the Yankees win when they win a game. He gets all excited. But John Sterling, sure, there was that amusement to him, but he was more than just that. The stories he told during the game, the way it was a talk show, the description in which he described plays during the game, the way he was able to make fun of himself at a time, have fun with Susan at a time, made the game fun and enjoyable no matter what was going on the field. He made the games fun and entertaining, but also had the passion. You saw how much he cared. The videos we put out at WFN of him going, ball game over, Yankees win, just all amped up and fired up. Even at 85 years old, look back to the Arizona series where he was so fired up for how nicely the season had started for the Yankees. And after that win, it's like, man, he still has it. And he was so special. His voice itself, live from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, like every single time. So not only is he the soundtrack of our childhood, I remember going to sleep at night with the radio I had it on my phone, on a cell phone, like this small, like the slide up flip phone. And I would listen to WFAN falling asleep. And I'd listen to John Sterling falling asleep on the radio, calling the Yankee games. I remember a few specific calls, of course. You all have those moments. I remember I went to the store with my mother. I told her to go in because I wanted to sit in the car and listen to John Sterling. And Raul Ibanez hit a game-tying late home run, and then the Yankees walked it off in extras. Just, we have so many specific memories that are tied to where you were when you heard John Sterling calling that. And where were you when you heard John Sterling calling that moment? And then for me, it transformed when I started working at WFN and I started working on the Yankee games last year. And John Sterling said my name for the first time. He pronounced it horribly. And I've since then recorded a couple of them, but I keep forgetting. So I need to find the ones where he said it well. But I put out this video today of him. And I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity. I didn't know. No one knew that this was going to be the last time he called the game. He was supposed to cut back on most road trips this year, but he was still supposed to call most of the home games. And then when he cut back more and no one knew why, and then it was very sudden today when it was announced that, yep, he's going to be retiring. It was a shock to me, but also it was just, to me, I had this moment where I was like so grateful that I had the opportunity to work with him last year. And not only that, but when I went to Yankee Stadium a couple of times, I got the chance to go in the booth and sit in the booth and watch him do what he's great at and talk to him during the commercial breaks and how nice and how gracious he was. And he talked to me about my career and how his career started in Baltimore also. Oh, your career started in Baltimore too. And we bonded over that. And we just had a nice conversation. He was funny. He was engaging. He's vibrant for an 85-year-old. He's vibrant. He loves life. He loves the Yankees. He loves baseball. And it was just so cool to see that a guy who had 64 something year career doing this, just incredible how much he valued every single moment. And now we're not going to have that anymore. He deserves his day on Friday. I saw the tickets went from like $30 a ticket for the minimum price. All of a sudden jumped up to like 80, and it probably jumped even more. Every time I looked at the app, the tickets were more and more expensive right as the news was coming out that John would be celebrated on Saturday, and he deserves that day. He's so much more, like I said, so much more than just the fun stuff and the funny stuff and the home run calls and the Yankees would. It's just who he is. He's the voice of the Yankees, and he embodied it perfectly. And he's the soundtrack of our childhood. And it's going to be different. I love my guys. I love Justin. I love Emmanuel, Manny Babari. Those guys are awesome. And it's cool. It's funny that they're like friends of mine, legitimate friends of mine who are now going to be the voices of the New York Yankees. And I'm really happy for those guys. But for us as Yankee fans, as good as those guys are, it's still a little bit sad that part of our childhood is no longer there. It's the same to me as like when Derek Jeter retired. I didn't know Yankee baseball without Derek Jeter. Being born in 97, I was born after his career started. with the Yankees. I don't know Yankee baseball without John Sterling, and this is going to be a transition. And I know those guys are going to kill it, but it's still sad, and I hope he gets celebrated the proper way. And I know he will on Saturday at Yankee Stadium. That said, I hope the Yankees can rally around this and go win one for John this year in honor of John. And hopefully he's healthy, and he sounded good on the radio today when he was on with Evan and Tiki, and he'll be around for a long time. So by no means is it, in memory of John. I hope this is in honor of John so that, this is his final season and he can sit and watch the Yankees win a World Series in retirement. Because he still loves the Yankees. He's still going to be watching every day, he said. So I hope that the Yankees rally, but so far they are winless in since John Sterling's retirement. They're 0-1. They lost up in Toronto today, so we're not going to talk about them. I was at the Mets game, and we'll get there in a second. Fun time, by the way. Citi Field, always a fun time. The New York Rangers, the night after the New York Knicks clinched the number 2 seed and have their 50th win of the season, the New York Rangers absolutely dominated after they had looked a little shaky the last few nights. They came out, they put their foot on the throat immediately and dominated start to finish. They were not going to relinquish that game. They said, we want the 1 seed. We want the President's Trophy. We don't care all the stigmas that come with it. Artemi Panarin, go get your monster MVP type caliber season. Igor Shesterkin with a shutout. Everything that could have gone right for the New York Rangers in that game went right, and you close the season with a bang. And now, whether it's Washington, even if it's Pittsburgh, but hopefully it's not Pittsburgh. If it's Washington, if it's Philly, if it's the Red Wings, bring on anyone. We have home ice, the best home ice in the league. I'm not scared of no curse. I'm not scared of no ghost. Give me the best record, 55 wins. It's crazy. The Rangers are the number 1 seed. The Knicks are the number 2 seed. It's going to be an incredible spring in Madison Square Garden in New York City. Every other night, we're going to be having Rangers playoffs and then Knicks playoffs and then Rangers and Knicks back and forth, hopefully for the next 2 months until a championship and then parades down the Canyon of Heroes. That's the goal. That's the dream. But for now, just enjoy this, enjoy what we have right now. And the fact that this Ranger team came back and made such a statement from the way the season ended and how that terrible taste that was in your mouth. I was so mad at the Rangers after the 2021-22 season. We were such a fun team. That team was so much fun, and they lose in Tampa the way they do after going up 2-0 in that series. Felt like they were the comeback kids. Felt like the Magic was never going to die. And then just like that, the Magic just wasn't there as much in year 2 with Gerard Gallant. Obviously, it really wasn't there because what happened, they get knocked out in Game 7, and they didn't even show up in Game 7 after being up 2-0 in that series and dominating the first 2 games against New Jersey and losing to the Devils. The way they came back this year is as good as they possibly could have come back. And they said it from day one. I saw my friend Johnny Lazarus put it on. He asked from day one, he asked Vinny Trocheck at the time. He's a beat reporter for the Rangers. He has his own Rangers podcast. And he said from day one, there was a different vibe. There's a different energy. There was a purpose with this Rangers team to come back and avenge what happened last year. And they did it. And the way they did it in dominant fashion and dominant style was just incredible. So shout out to everyone from the coaching staff to the players. The New York Rangers, this season was a special season, and they finished it off the right way by dominating at home, getting their 55th win in front of their home crowd, getting the President's Trophy in front of their home crowd. Sam Rosen on the call, by the way, ecstatic, which, by the way, another one of those guys, we don't know how long. Now you start to think about that. How long are you going to have these guys? Sam, I hope we have him for a while, but he's also getting up there in age, and just fantastic way to close out the regular season for the Rangers. It means nothing if they don't at least make it to the Stanley Cup. Enough is enough. We need them to go back to the final. And it's crazy. 30 years later, right? OJ Simpson dies. The OJ Chase obviously was 30 years ago. But OJ Simpson dies, and you have the Knicks and Rangers, what could be a magical playoff run like they were in 1994 when the Rangers won the Cup and the Knicks went to the NBA Finals. They didn't win it. But if we could have similar runs like that in New York City this year, that would be fun. To the Mets, and my last point is going to be about the New York Mets. Keith McPherson oftentimes calls this Mets team the Make It Happen Mets. He called them that in the 2022 season, the Make It Happen Mets, where the Mets didn't look great. There were a million walks. They stranded runners. It wasn't a great game for the Mets. And yet when it came down to it at the end of the day, when they needed it most, the Mets found a way to win. When they went down 3-0, it seemed like, this game is cooked, and they found a way. They battled back. And then to be in the building, first of all, Harrison Bader, shout out Harrison Bader, wearing the Star of David on his belt, representing, not saying anything, not doing anything, but just putting it there. DJ Stewart also has been, as a pinch hit, comes up huge for the Mets. He's been awesome for the Mets all year in big spots. Harrison Bader with a big hit, obviously. Again, Starling Marte. How good has Starling Marte been? He's got another 2 hits in the game. And he plays a really solid right field as well. And like I've been saying, if you've been listening to my fantasy baseball podcast, all he needs is to stay healthy. He could still be really good, and he looks healthy so far this season. But in the 9th inning, I got to say, when the lights go out and they start playing the trumpets and it's fiery in there, you know you have a lockdown save coming. You know that Edwin Diaz is going to shut it down because that's what he does. And I know 3 runs is a big lead, so it's not shocking that he got a save in that situation. You're supposed to get a save, but he is shut down. I don't care if it's 1 run, 2 runs. It doesn't matter. When he comes in, see ya. Good night. It's game over. Turn out the lights. Just like they do, turn out the lights before he comes in. It turns out the lights on the other team. It's over for the other team when Edwin Diaz comes in. He is as shut down a closer there is in MLB right now. And I'm kind of jealous of the Mets. We had that for so many years with Mariano Rivera. It was like, all right, we get to the 9th inning with the lead. That's it. Game over. Now the Mets have that in Queens. They have that. So they're 8-8 now. They got back to 500 after the 1-6 awful start. It's incredible where this team is. They were 0-6, and they're now 8-2 in their last 10. Incredible job by the New York Mets to get back to 500. Another win. Keep stacking them. Keep stacking dubs. They went out on the road and they did it. Now they came home. They've won 3 of their last 4 at home. Keep doing that. Pittsburgh off to a really good start, like I talked about, but they're not a great team. You can beat this team. Tomorrow night, I think it's going to be the debut for Jones. We'll see what happens. Still not for sure what's going to happen for the Pirates there, but either way, just an incredible job by the Mets to get it done at home. And like I said, just again, Edwin Diaz is shut down. And it wasn't the prettiest win. It wasn't a great game all around by the Mets, but they found a way to win. And that's what's more impressive. The make it happen Mets, like Keith always talked about. This is a team that makes it happen, that finds a way when they need to find a way. And so I'm pumped for them. I'm pumped for the Mets. I still think this team can win. Like I said last night, mid-80s, go to the playoffs as a wild card, and then you'll see what happens. They're well on their way to doing that, and considering where they were a week and a half ago, this is a remarkable turnaround by the New York Mets, and I'm excited for it. So that's all I got today. Again, like, subscribe, listen to this. We're going to be doing this as often as possible, maybe every day. It's not going to take you a lot of time. If we're talking about 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, recapping the biggest stories in New York sports in the day. Or sometimes we'll just be having fun, just chatting on here. I'm going to try and do it as often as possible. So until next time, like, subscribe, share it with a friend, all podcast platforms, YouTube, all that. See ya.